Well, hello everyone. My name is Filip. I am a student at the Zagreb Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences, and together with my colleague Lana Bunić, who was sadly unable to be here today, we have done a research focusing on points and places of transgender isolation. This is a lot longer time than I imagined. So we started our research by asking some key questions. The primary questions we aimed were whether transgender individuals feel isolated at all, if so, in what ways and in which places. And finally, we wanted to know how does that isolation relate to their sense of identity, to their sense of self. Our methodology, we did 2 interviews with 2 transgender male informants who were in pre-transition phase. We coded them and analyzed them, and our greatest problem was the problem of in-betweenness as articulated by Vincent Crapanzano. So our theoretical, this is it. Sorry, the presentation is a bit different. Yes, the greatest methodological problem was this: the problem of in-betweenness, because it's hard to translate what is untranslatable according to our heteronormative terms. So our theoretical framework was the theory of social stigma as articulated by Erving Goffman. So transgender people are transgressing established heteronormative categories, and this is why they are rejected, leaving them in a liminal space of in-betweenness. So we attempted to broadly encompass isolation and then categorize various places of isolation. For example, public spaces, institutions, and private relationships. But this is a really narrow down view of it all. So public spaces can be very problematic because they may hinder transgender individuals' ability to perform basic tasks and functions, PE class, for example, and they also make transgender people less visible, so therefore making them less connected to the general social reality, let's say. So this is a comic our informant sent me. It represents how isolated transgender people can feel in various spaces, but also represents the feeling of gender dysmorphia people often feel when they are forced to occupy a space which they don't feel like they belong. This is also related to chest binding, which is a practice of binding your chest to appear more masculine. So for institutions, for example, a student can't go to an Erasmus mobility before legally transitioning and changing documents, which reduces their opportunities. Some educators are also not collegial, they make things hard for them, and they like to throw some cheap jokes. The public healthcare in Croatia is overall problematic, and this also translates to transgender problems that leaves them basically denied of proper healthcare identity and leaving them isolated. So private healthcare is better, but expensive, and therefore less accessible. These quotes speak more than I do, actually. So in personal relationships, what hurts the most is the feeling of rejection and negation. Our informants have generally problematic relationships with their families. For example, only 1 to 2 family members of informant M's family know of his transgender identity. And also, friendships change when you expose your identity to people, especially some old friends who knew different version of you. So in dating, in romantic relationships, isolation comes from not being perceived correctly. So you identify as a male, but you are, because of your body, which also relates to gender dysmorphia, perceived differently. So it makes it hard to date and makes the trans dating community very closed and hermetic. So also regarding LGBT community, people, these informants felt very detached from it for their different personal reasons. And this is what we found interesting, because you would expect LGBT community to be some kind of self-harbor for them. So all of these uncertainties leave them very insecure, and this leads to an underlying sense of precarity. This results in our informants having actually quite modest wishes, basically the rights most of us here don't have to ponder over. These quotes speak, again, more than I do. So our informants passed through different phases with embracing their identity. What was crucial was personal and structural support, meaning basically friends, it was very enunciated, and psychotherapy or general healthcare they could get, and which was of quality, because as you could see, the experiences vary. So our informants are still traversing various places of isolation and inclusion. They have their ups and downs, of course, but they have managed to embrace their identity and are now fighting to express it. They constantly have to negotiate their identity, which is one of the key points. So in conclusion, we confirmed our hypothesis of stigma regarding transgender people. We identified various places of isolation and found possible ways and spaces of connection. This was a small research, and of course, much more is yet to be discovered and learned, which we hope to do. And finally, wait, just a second. This is the key literature that we used. So it was a small-scale research, I repeat, and I'm eager to hear your critique at the first place and your comments, questions. This is it for me. Thank you.